Yes.
Yes? Okay. Whoever just said that, I almost couldn't hear you, and I've got my volume up pretty high. Okay, we'll start out with a roll call. This is Alder Galvin, Alder Dorf, Alder Dorf, Alder Corpus Dax.
Got it. Okay, I couldn't get in. Here.
Okay.
Oh, was that me?
Okay, yep. So Alder Dorf is here. Alder Corpus Dax.
Yes, here.
Okay, and Alder LaFave. All right, she still seems to be absent. All right, so we have enough for a quorum and the meeting will begin. I will entertain a motion on approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right, and before we vote, I would ask HR Director Falls. I had submitted an email with an add-on agenda item that doesn't appear in the agenda. I had a conversation with Celestine Jeffries, and I just want to make sure what the final decision on that agenda item was.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, we unfortunately forgot to put that on the agenda, but what we can do is when we talk about the emergency preparedness plan, we can talk about your communication at that time.
All right, so we will be able to cover that today. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Everyone's had a chance to look at the minutes from our last meeting. Does anyone have any corrections or changes?
Move to approve. Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All right, that passes unanimously. On to regular business. Number 1, consideration with possible action to amend Chapter 23, FMLA, Section 2, to allow supplementing FFCRA leave time with accrued paid leave. Staff.
So this is the policy we approved last week. The only change or amendment we're asking for is to allow employees to use sick leave, vacation, personal or comp time to make themselves whole. So right now, if you're on leave for childcare or some other leaves that pay 2/3 of your regular pay, we're asking that our employees can substitute their accrued leave to make themselves whole for that time. And then one minor thing is that when we look at the emergency first responders, we need to add one section in there, and it's not added in the document that was sent to you. But when you look at the eligibility for leave due to childcare, we just left out a paragraph that talks about the documentation that's required. So if you're okay approving this item, I would just ask that you approve it as amended to add the paragraph for requiring documentation for childcare leave.
Does anybody have any questions for staff on this?
No. Did you want the motion in the form of to approve the amendment, or just to say to approve that as presented?
I think either one will work. I think to approve the personnel policy and as amended at committee, maybe that would work.
Okay. All right. Then I'd like to make a motion to approve the this personnel policy as amended at committee. Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve as amended at committee. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. And that passes unanimously. On to number 2, consideration with possible action to amend the city's emergency preparedness plan for COVID-19. Yeah.
Yep. So the only change was on, and I'm sorry I didn't highlight it this time, but the only change was on page 4 with the leave benefits and payroll considerations. We simply just put that employees will receive benefits in accordance with the chapter that you just approved and the item before this. And then we'll also be, one thing I need to do is make sure that our frequently asked questions coincides with the changes to the plan. But I'll go through that and make sure that's correct. But that doesn't require any common council approval. So if you look at page 4, leave benefits and payroll considerations, the first paragraph is the only thing that was changed from the last time you looked at this doc.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for staff on this? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, and Alder Galvin. Yeah. And then if you want to talk about your communication, we can do that right now.
All right, let's do that then. And it's the committee members at a disadvantage here. But after I heard about the officer on the police department that was infected with COVID-19, I guess that really brought it to bear in my mind that as a personnel committee who are entrusted with the welfare of our employees and the working conditions that they're working under, that it would behoove us a little bit to ask some questions and get a better understanding of exactly what the officers are facing out there and the equipment that they have available to them to try and work becoming a victim of this disease. So I sent several questions to Chief Smith, and he sat down with Commander Wark and Lieutenant Strauff, who I guess, from what I'm hearing, has been bearing the load of making sure the squads and the officers are clean and contamination free as much as possible. So Chief Smith, looking at the answers that I received from you, I'm going to skip the first 4, and basically for everyone's, and the first 4 questions concerned what our past practices had been for decontamination squads and how do we handle officers that were involved in a situation where they might have been contaminated, say by blood from another person, and that kind of thing. And so those were pretty much as I remember them, so I don't have any further questions. But Chief Smith, if you want to take us down question by question, starting with number 5, and you want to just give us an answer to them. If you want, I'll read the question and give the answer. If you just want to do the whole thing, if that's easier, go ahead.
You know, sir, I might make it clear for everybody, and then I can answer. I also have Lieutenant Strauff here, who has done an incredible job as our logistics officer, getting the stuff that we need. He supervises all the guys in the mechanic shop downstairs and knows everything about everything when it comes to this. So I'll have him fill in the blanks that I have. Okay.
All right. So starting out, I asked a question. I said, what are the current protocols for squad cars? How often are they cleaned? Is it at the end of the shift, after each transport, or none at all? And if you want to give me your answer.
Okay, in general, every officer washes their car or cleans the inside of their car with disinfectant wipes prior to starting their shift. So every squad gets cleaned before it goes out in the field. In addition, the mechanics have been assigned, they rotate through our entire fleet, and about every 3 or 4 days, they give a thorough spray down utilizing their own protective equipment and some pretty heavy duty disinfectants that we have. They allow it to dry, and then they wipe down all the surfaces with a different disinfectant once their initial disinfectant is dry. Now, what we're planning on doing is when we switch to 12-hour shifts, which we're looking to do in the near future, every squad is going to get cleaned thoroughly by the shop mechanics every day after it gets used. So we'll have all the squads from the 12-hour shift. They'll be lined up. We'll disinfect every single one of them, and then we'll let them go out with that same group and even hopefully that same officer the next shift. So we'll have officers using the same squad, and they'll all be disinfected prior to being out there.
Can I ask a question, Alder Galvin?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, so Chief Litton had this, they used to clean the ambulances. Is process that the police department is also using?
Right now, no. They're using a professional service. The quote we got was, I think, $300 per squad. So right now, we don't think we can afford to spend $300 per squad per day to get them cleaned out. So we're having our mechanics do what we think is a sufficient job at this point. Yeah, so I'm going to let Brad jump in for just a second to expand on that. Just a moment.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. As far as the professional services, we do have not a contract, but we have an agreement with a service that'll come in if we have a known infected person in a car and it's less than 3 days out. But as the chief mentioned, they'll come in for a fee of about $300, clean that particular car. But with a fleet of 45 Mark squads that are going out on a regular basis, obviously it wouldn't be fiscally responsible to just arbitrarily have those cars cleaned by that professional service. We did a little bit of review, the mechanics and I, as to what services are being performed. Of course, squad cars are a whole different animal than a rescue squad or a fire rig, so it might be a little bit of comparing apples and oranges to the fire department. But the mechanics are using, like the chief said, some very strong disinfectants. They're utilizing PPE, and at the rate they've been doing, they're cleaning about 2 squads an hour. So they're spending in a half hour on just the interior of the squad cars. So they are doing a very thorough job.
I just wanted to say, Chief Litton, do we own the cleaning equipment that we use for the ambulances?
We do not own the equipment. It's
Okay.
done by a company that we contracted with, and they're charging us $45 per ambulance. And that's, obviously an ambulance is much larger than a patrol car. And we're only, if we have any transports of patients during the day, suspected or not of COVID, they are getting sanitized at this point, disinfected. If we don't have any runs, which is very rare in any of the ambulances, although it has happened a couple of times since we instituted this, we are not cleaning them, but we are being charged $45 per ambulance per day.
So does it seem to be a bit of a discrepancy if the police department got a $300 quote? Oh.
Well, I think that I'm not sure what quote they got. I can tell you, so the $45 fee that we're talking about here is for a spray and disinfectant. It's electrically charged so that it basically makes all of the particles adhere to all surfaces within the ambulances, even the ones you really can't see. If we transport a known patient, so when we do have a known patient, or if we have any kind of procedure in the back where there was, let's just say, a nebulizer for an asthmatic patient, or if we had to intubate somebody, that's called an aerialized procedure, which raises the risk infinitely in the back of the ambulance. At that point, we do what's called a very deep clean, and that service is charging $130 per hour for that. And it's typically taken them about 2 hours to clean the ambulance in that regard. We've had to use them, I think, a couple of times in that regard already. So,
yeah, agreeing with Chief Litton, and I may have misspoke. The $300 price quote was for that known contaminated squad. The normal, if this service, and I don't know for sure if it's the same service, Chief Litton, I know we had 2 different dealers give us quotes. But it was also $45 for each squad individually to do something very similar to what you described. So the $300 was not every vehicle. It was only for known cases that were in that particular squad car. So I apologize if I misspoke or misrepresented that.
No, I mean, that's really helpful. I appreciate that. And do you think the job the mechanics are doing is equal to the $45 of it? It would seem like it would cost that much for their salary and the materials that they use. And I'm not sure, can they get every surface like this other way of cleaning can?
Well, I think, separate from some types of equipment that a professional service might use, really the main concern for the most part is the rear seat area of the squad cars, which is all hard surface. And they're using, I think the product's called Mega Quad or something similar to that. I can never pronounce it right. They also have a cleaner that is useful in destroying TB. So they have 2 different liquid cleaners that they're spraying. They're using your standard disinfectant wipes as well on all the hard surfaces. And at this point, I guess without putting 2 squads side by side and doing some type of scientific comparison, I can't tell you honestly that it's exactly the same. But we feel like the thoroughness of the job they're doing is sufficient, and we've been able to work that into their schedule, among other things, and make it a priority given the times that we're living in. But kind of what we've been doing. Certainly this will be open to more discussion if and when we start transporting more COVID-19 infected patients, or in fact, we have officers in the squad that test positive after they've been in them.
One thing to think about, this is Smith again, if you're talking about $5 per squad, and I'm ballparking us using 30 squads per day, if we go on the 12-hour rotation, that's $1,350 in cleaning per day for the police department, and that's going to run until this COVID thing is done. That's for 30 squads cleaned, each squad once a day.
And thank you. I just want to make sure that it actually was less the back seat I was concerned about than the front seat, because if different officers are using the car, then they would be, and if one of them tested positive, which we had one test positive, then it's really the front of the car, the steering wheel, whatever equipment is used in the front of the car. That's the part I'm also concerned about, so that our officers are not possibly passing that on to each other. We're satisfied with the way it's being cleaned right now, then I'm fine with it. I do not want us to be so concerned about money that we will put our officers at risk. That's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Great point.
All right, I guess I would have a few comments or questions. If a person is infected, and this might be best for Chief Litton, if a person is infected with COVID-19, they're showing those symptoms, how long could they be infecting people before they start showing symptoms?
Well, the quarantine period for any patient is 14 days. So I think that there can be many transmissions of this virus with people that are what are considered asymptomatic or are not showing any symptoms whatsoever. So I think that all of this is really, quite honestly, a shot in the dark. I gave a report last Tuesday. I think we were at 45 suspected. All three criteria for the symptoms. We're probably up to 65 or 70 now. I don't have the exact number. I can just tell you it's happening on a regular occurrence. And we are now treating every single transport. So our folks are wearing PPE, the masks and the gloves, and the goggles and the gowns if they meet their criteria. But even the ones that don't meet the criteria now, we're using the N95 respirators on all the medical calls. One of the good things that's happened since I last reported is the HSHS system, the hospital system, has come up with their UV trailer. And so now we are being able to sanitize and disinfect the N95 masks. So we're starting a rotation process, which the police are part of, where we are collecting the masks on a daily basis, taking them to the trailer. They go in this UV lighting. They have to be treated for, I think it's about, and then they're technically clean. The research shows what happens with that is over time that the masks do degrade, and then we have to replace them and them out after every single time. So far, I think we've been at this now for almost a week, and I'm not aware of any breakdowns in the equipment yet. At least it hasn't been brought to my attention. So we're very happy about that, because it will extend the life of all of our masks, and it should extend the life for the masks for the police officers as well going forward. And we were terribly concerned. There's only a certain amount of this. There's a finite amount of it in the country right now, though they're ramping up the production. But I think that I'm confident that we have enough here in the city now for us and the police officers going forward under these circumstances.
All right, thank you, Chief. Well, here's some questions, maybe comments or concerns I have about the answers I've received. Since an individual is capable of infecting other people without showing any symptoms for days before they actually could be showing symptoms where they would be tested for, and then it's another, from what I'm hearing, upwards of 6 days or more before we get test results. I'm wondering if we really should be cleaning the cars after every transport. And I imagine Lieutenant banging his head on his desk right now.
I didn't think there was a video here.
Yeah, I could just feel the sensation through the tremors in the ground. But when you consider that anybody we transport, although they may appear healthy, may not even have a temperature, could in fact be infecting our officers. And the cage, or whatever you want to call it, the partition between the front seat and the back seat, is not airtight. Many times prisoners are left in the back seat for several minutes, maybe being observed from outside, but who's to know that they haven't coughed or sneezed or even on purpose deposited their fluids from their bodies into the driver's compartment or even the rear transport area. And so that concerns me. And I think we ought to seriously look at changing our protocol and considering this because, the same car gets used day in and day out. Officers are going in and out of the car, and they could be picking contaminated, infected. I also, with the amount of time spent doing this, I know we have some employees in the city that have been put on furloughed or less hours, and I'm wondering if we could have them do some different job duties, such as helping the mechanics clean cars. Obviously with all the proper training and gear and equipment to protect them while they're doing it. But I just think we need to think outside the box with this. I think we have to be more proactive when it comes to cleansing these squad cars. It's a tight little box in there. And there's nothing in there that's going to kill those germs other than disinfectant for quite a bit of time. And so when officers those are hot cars. They come in and they go back out within about 30 minutes of the end of the shift with another officer in it. And so I just think we should consider, or maybe I will make a recommendation at the end of this as to doing that.
All right, sir, if I could address the second your statements first, we'd love to have more help cleaning our cars. Our mechanics are plenty busy building squads and repairing squads. It would be great to have more help. The first part of your problem, we've already done a couple things. One of the things is I had the detectives tape off using a heavy clear plastic tape the whole rear back portion of the vehicle so that all the squads have a taped up, it's not just a plastic piece that they add there now, that's got a tape around the sides to at least help seal it. Then we tell all our officers to not your recirculating air, but your outside air on so they get a positive ventilation from their squad. And if they have somebody in there, leave the back windows partially open so all the air gets vented, not through the front, but out through the back windows where the suspect is traveling. The third thing is once we go to these 12-hour shifts, we'll be able to clean each squad after each trip or after each 12-hour shift, so that we won't be putting anybody in a squad that's had somebody riding in it in the past and hasn't been cleaned.
Okay, and that makes me feel a little bit better. Again, I wonder though if we could not all. The N95 mask, I understand it's rare and hard to come by. But there's also the good old regular surgical mask that you see. Could we not be putting these on prisoners to help, not as a punishment to them or anything else like that, but one, to protect them in case an officer could actually be infectious. But also at the same time, should they have a cough, whether it's related to COVID-19 or not, or sneezes and that, it would contain a lot of those droplets that you hear about and would, again, help keep everybody safer. And then I guess I would also ask Director Falls, is it possible if we have employees that are on furlough or part-time work status, the work jobs changing, could they be recruited into going to work at the PD and helping with the cleaning of the squads to free up the mechanics to do the jobs they were really hired to do, which is keep the squads running?
Alder Galvin and Strofe. I'll take your first part, Joe, if you don't mind, and then I'll let you answer the second part. You're still thinking like a cop, and I like it. We've been actually doing exactly what you said for about the last week and a half to 2 weeks. We got a large donation of homemade cloth masks from a concerned community member. We also currently are in possession of over 500 surgical masks. Officers are being issued both the cloth homemade masks and the surgical masks with pretty explicit instructions that prisoners they put in the back, certainly if they're symptomatic and even if they're not, ask them if they are going to be objectable, or they're going to object rather to wearing a mask. And if they're symptomatic, I haven't outright said who cares what they think, but I've kind of went down that road. Your safety is, paramount. So absolutely, great idea. But one thing I finally beat you to, so I'll pass it on to Mr. Fald.
Yeah, I definitely think it's possible to have employees who may be laid off or furloughed to do that type of work. I just want to make sure that they have, like you said, the proper equipment, that they're properly trained, that they know how to properly clean the vehicle as well for everyone's safety. And I think though one thing I think would be difficult is I don't think we'd want to force anyone to do that. I think if they would rather be laid off than do that type of work, because there's going to be some type of risk to it, depending on what type of equipment you have on and, just cleaning all the vehicles. So I think it's something we need to explore. And I think you're right that we do have to think outside the box with all of our employees who have less work, what they can do to help out their own departments or other departments. So I think it's a good idea, and I think we should look into it.
And I agree with you. I don't think we should force anyone to do something that that they didn't sign up for and puts them at some risk. But I'm sure there's some out there that being in the house with their significant other or their children for an extended period of time might be looking for an excuse to get out and stretch their legs a little bit. And if they are getting short hours or something, this could be one way for them to make up some of that income that they're losing.
And one thing too, just Director Falls here real quick. We'd also need to know the hours too. I mean, if they're doing 12-hour shifts, most people aren't used to working late at night or early in the morning. So I think that's something we have to look at as well, that maybe some employees would welcome different shifts as well. So, and how we separate that.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Question number 6 has already been covered. It was, how are the squads cleaned, with what and by whom? So I'll go on to number 7. What are the levels of supplies to clean squads and how many days of cleaning supplies do we have on hand?
So talking about Brad Strauss, we have at least several weeks and up to a few months of supplies. We've been fortunate because we got donations from the Green Bay Public Schools. We've got concerned citizens who brought us stuff. We got supplies managed by the Brown County Emergency Operations Center. We've got donations from private companies here in town that make stuff. I have on my desk a little bottle of hand sanitizer, handmade, with a 63% alcohol in it. So we've had a ton of really nice donations from people in the community. It's been really great. So we're at least a few weeks, and I would dare to say we could go more than a month with just what we have on hand.
Okay, good. Thank you. Let me see. On to the next question. What PPE are used by officers when dealing with potential COVID-19 persons or situations? And I actually think that's been pretty well covered. That they have N95 masks, they have safety glasses, and latex and nitrile gloves, along with face shields and surgical masks. So, and then I also asked how many days of PPE we have on that. And Chief, could you answer that? How many days supply do we have of those PPE?
Well, the one thing we're short of and we really need are those N95 masks. We have accumulated, based on what we had before this thing occurred and what we have up till this day, about 410 of those masks. So each patrol officer should have 2 N95 masks. Those are the ones that are critical. We're fine with the face shields. We got cases and cases of gloves. We've got safety glasses for everybody. But when we lose those N95 masks, it's great that we can get them cleaned, but in a perfect world, we'd have a ton more of those N95 masks. That's the Achilles heel, I suppose, of all of our police supplies.
All right. And Chief, I didn't ask this question, but I'm going to ask this now. This is related to the protocols for officers on the road. Obviously, they're the ones that are lined up with the public, but also a concern about the people working inside. Very few of them, I imagine some of the record staff and some of the administrative staff can work from home, but detectives, the front window people, supervisors inside, the training officers and all that, they are in, and they have to be, there's no way I can see how you could avoid it. They have to be within 6 feet of each other. I mean, we're working 3 homicides, and congratulations on the good work that's been done on that so far. But we have a lot of other crimes that they have to be involved with. And again, if we're bringing witnesses or suspects, or we don't know who they are, into the station, or even now we have an officer that was infected, what are the protocols for those employees working inside the station?
I'm going to let Brad Strauff answer that. I think he's better up to speed on that particular one than I am.
Most people are out. Right, yeah. As far as our records, folks, I think we have 1 or 2 out of like 20 that are actually still in the building, and that's even sporadic there. Our detectives were all issued 1 single N95 mask yesterday, the day before, but for that very reason that, they're still sworn. And I'm glad you mentioned the homicide investigations. Unfortunately, at a time when we'd like them to not be out in the field, they have been out in the field more, and they're talking to people in interview rooms that are obviously closely confined. I actually saw 2 officers today bringing people in and out of interview rooms wearing surgical man face shields. Not to make light of the situation, but it literally looked like a scene from E.T. So it was kind of neat seeing those, and it was younger officers in that case. So everybody has, at this point, really the minimal requirement as far as PPE. They have been told that it's a mandate to use it. So technically, they're in violation of, of a mandate here given by the chief if they're not utilizing it. I don't get down into the investigation division real often, but like I said, I did today, and I didn't see an officer in close proximity to either a suspect or another officer back in that narrow hallways between interview rooms without masks. And like I said, 2 of the officers also had face shields on, so I was real glad to see that they're using it.
And all our meetings, we do the 6-foot distance. Even our morning meetings that we have where we get together, we do it in the training center. There's only probably 6 of us in there, and everybody picks a corner, and I sit in the middle, and we just fire questions and try and start practicing it even in the station. We have mandatory hand washing when people enter the station. We've got everybody's got germicidal wipes and germicidal hand cleaner on their desks. So I think we're trying to keep people separated and trying to give them the equipment that they need to keep healthy.
Okay, I guess my other 2 suggestions. One, considering that we have an officer that has been infected, potentially could have infected other officers, that maybe we could get surgical masks for those people working inside, make it mandatory that they wear it all the time until we get some other results back. And then I would also strongly suggest, and I know our cleaning staff have a lot of responsibility, not just of the police department, but they also clean the 2 CP centers and municipal court. But establish a protocol that when we have suspects or witnesses or victims coming in, that those interview rooms be cleaned as soon as they've been emptied out. Just because, again, someone could sneeze in there, that residue could be about, and again, affect officers by accident or other individuals that are being interviewed by the police officers.
Okay, a couple quick things. We are fully staffed in our maintenance crew. We adjusted their shifts so that there's always someone here that can be doing that. They aren't doing the regular maintenance that you would expect them to do, but they're doing nothing but cleaning. So they'll come through every hallway, hit every doorknob, every door frame, every door itself, desks, chairs, everything. They're doing a terrific job of that. I couldn't be happier. We did close the gym at the beginning of this, much to the dismay of our weightlifting crew, but we closed the gym off and put it off limits so that we wouldn't have to clean that, so that all the time they would spend normally cleaning that gym and that building, as well as the break rooms here. We shut down the break rooms because we don't want people congregating for breaks. So we shut down the break rooms and even removed the tables and chairs from the one downstairs so they don't have to spend that time cleaning the breaks after people use it. So we're trying to be as judicious as we can with their time, but they are concentrating on sanitizing the place. I'll check around to see if I don't think the women that are working the front desk, there's no contact, no physical contact between them and the public because they have those windows there that are hermetically sealed. But I will see if they would be willing to wear PPE masks around each other. We're going to have fewer and fewer of them up there, I think, because they're helping out the staff with the polling. We'll probably only have one person at the front desk for the next few days, and the rest of the people are going to be equipped with PPEs and sent over to help the folks over at the city clerk office with the voting business.
All right.
We shut off the watch commander. Bill, I'm sorry, sir. We shut off the watch commander's office as well. That's off limits, so people can't walk through there. We don't let officers pass through the front desk. We don't let them go into detectives. We ask if they need to talk to the watch commander, that you do it by phone so that they're not in and out of the station. We don't have multiple officers in the report writing room. We sent our light duty officers home to do work from home. So we're really a skeleton crew here right now. So we don't get it as dirty as we used to anyway.
Okay, I appreciate that. Does anyone else have any space on any of the, I'm sorry if I've been taking up a lot of time, but I just had a lot of concerns about this. Okay,
Those are very
moving on.
good questions, Alder. And they were very good answers too.
All right. So I'm going to move on to another question. What are the protocols for officers who feel they have been contaminated or are showing symptoms of being contaminated?
Okay, first of all, we do immediate notification to supervisor so we can determine what the situation was. Before they even go out of their cars, though, and if they have to deal with people, we ask them to put on that N95 mask and gloves and their glasses. If it's someone who they believe is going to have to go hands-on, we even ask them to wear the face shield that they've been provided. So we do that to try and mitigate it. But if we do have protocols where someone may have been in contact with someone or come in too close proximity, they're to notify a supervisor. We do an evaluation. They run that evaluation up through Kevin and even through the Brown County Health Department to get a level of exposure determined. Now, right now we have 6 officers who were exposed to the one officer who came down with COVID. So we have 6 officers at home on self-quarantine at their houses, monitoring them to see if they develop symptoms. We had a couple other officers on a call yesterday, which we just found out about it, and we are looking at the amount of exposure. One of them did have his mask on, but 2 of them were nearby in the vicinity but didn't have their masks on last night. So we're looking at that incident as well. But again, those get run all the way up the chain of command here and then to the Brown County Health Department and the head, I don't know if it's a nurse or whatever her title is, but health officer.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and based on their determination of the type of contact and how much contact there was using the CDC guidelines, the officers are sent into quarantine and get tested.
Okay. And then there was actually that was split into 2 parts because I said following up with, quarantine, follow up with people that might have been in contact with during or after the incident, other officers, citizens, families, and friends. And I guess the answer was generally testing is offered if an officer becomes symptomatic. Is that, and I don't know if Chief Linton would be the one to answer that, how does that fit in with the tier system for who gets tested and who doesn't and how long it takes to get the results?
Elder Galvin, so all of the first responders, police, fire, EMS, they fall into tier 2. All of the hospitals are providing testing at this point. I had an employee that had to go in to be tested today, and they told him when he left there that they would have the results no later than 72 hours, but more than likely in 48. We have run into a couple of instances where we've had people that had to go get tested and they were told, well, you're in tier 3, you can't get tested. But I think we've got that all straightened out now. So if we have any of our frontline first responders in any of the departments that run into any problem with getting tested, we can make some phone calls to the appropriate doctors and we get them right in. So that shouldn't be a concern at this point.
All right. And Chief Linton, just a follow-up. A lot of talk nationally about testing and the lack of it. Have you seen any changes locally? Is more test kits becoming available and are the turnaround becoming faster?
I would say that there are no more available kits or the reactants for the tests themselves. I would say that at least for the first responders, the turnaround time has definitely improved. Like they are literally, they're not considering them tier 1, but I would say if there's a tier 1A, that's what they're being considered, and they are definitely going to the front of the line. So again, we are seeing those turnarounds pretty quickly.
All right, thank you. Moving on, my next couple of questions are going to be regarding that was infected. The question is, what is the timeline of the officer who has COVID-19? When did he suspect? When was he tested? When was he quarantined? How long did it take to get the test results back? And do we know how he was infected?
Okay, he last worked on March 29th. He was asymptomatic March 29th. he went home on days off, but then his wife fell ill. So he stayed home on a family ill status for several days until he started feeling the symptoms himself. When he became symptomatic at home, he contacted us. He got a test, and I believe it was close to 48 hours later, the test came back positive. That would have been on April 2nd. So we do not know now how he was infected, whether he was infected here at work or at home or somewhere in between. We did go back and trace all the people that he was in contact with, all the officers and any community member that had significant contact. We worked through the health department with that. They're still working on that, but the officers, 6 of them did have significant contact. As I mentioned earlier, they are on home quarantine right now. We looked at his vehicle and who used his vehicle. It was determined through the health department and the head person at the health department that there was no concern for the people because of the time period that his squad went unused. So there was no concern with that, the fact that it had been cleaned or whatnot. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We do not know how he was infected.
Okay. I guess my concern is it's 5 days since it was confirmed that he was infected. And the back trace seems to be, I know it's like a criminal investigation. You're trying to find out where it all started. And that can be difficult at times, but I'm kind of surprised after 5 days that we haven't had any results at all. And I'm also wondering, he his last day of work was the 29th, but what about the people he was in contact with for 3, 4, 5 days before that when he could have been asymptomatic?
I think we were being guided by the health department's advice, and they looked at all the contacts he had. And I think they may have gone back prior to just the last work day. They may have gone to the other days, which is where those 6 people got tagged as being potentially higher risk contacts, and therefore quarantined. The ones that have been quarantined are symptomatic at this time. So we're hoping for the best for that. We're hoping that he became symptomatic after he went home.
Okay.
So I still don't have the results of anybody else that was or that may have been significantly contacted.
Is the Brown County Health Department working with the police department? Are they keeping them up to date on this on their back trace investigation, or is this something that you might find out about a couple weeks down the road?
I can just know, although I don't know all the background either. Kevin was really the one that kind of ran with this from the get-go. But when we found out what was going on, I actually came in with him. We came in about 6 o'clock or 6:30 Sunday night to notify the 6 officers that we had determined were in the closest or most likely closest proximity to the officer affected. At that time, we were working with a nurse. I cannot remember her last name. Debbie was her first name, working out of Oneida. She was the one that was actually providing kind of the medical guidance with this, and she sort of made the determination that 29th was just a hot day. Matt Kane had actually, I think it was Matt at least, had gone back several days prior to that, and we had done days obviously after that, although the officer wasn't in the building or at work after the 29th. And we were able to, working again with Brown County Health Department, make the determination that 29th was the big day. Along with a specific squad, which was the one that we isolated, and actually it hasn't even been back in service yet. It's, that's how serious, not that we wouldn't have taken it seriously, but we just, we're learning as we go along too. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the background I have, is that we came in, we notified, while we were notifying the 6 officers, this Debbie, who I believe is a nurse, although I'm not 100% sure of her exact title, was actually either calling right before we ended up calling the officers or right after. So we were kind of working in harmony as much as you possibly could. And then we also had a brief with her prior to us calling the officers and said, what do you consider, significant exposure versus low exposure? And it really came down to a matter of, feet, inches, time spent inside of those feet and inches. So we followed their lead on that one.
Alder Galvin, can I add?
Sure.
This is Chief Litton. The health department is literally tracing hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people with all of these different exposures. And they've only got a finite amount of people that they have for doing those investigations. Having said that, we are, the Emergency Operations Center is up and operational during the day. There is a briefing at 11 o'clock with all the public safety agencies. There's another briefing at 1 o'clock And then at the end of the day, we get a written report of all the activities, including the health department and what they've been doing. But I will tell you that they have been on top of, especially with the first responders, they have been very responsive to, as soon as they are getting their results, getting back to us. We had one that we had in question that got tested on Friday, and we got the results back on Monday afternoon. As they had them, we were notified. So I think they're doing the best they can given the resources.
And I appreciate that. I'm not trying to suggest that anyone's sitting back with their feet on their desk and watching TV. I'm certainly not trying to suggest that. It's just that, again, thinking outside the box. If they're strapped for staff, I know there's probably a lot of retired police detectives that could certainly help them if they were to hire them on a whatever kind of basis, or things like that could kick in and help. Because to me, my main concern here, how did this officer get infected? Was it because a process that we have needs to be changed? Is it because protocols weren't being followed? Is it because we have an individual that is showing no symptoms, and we've been told there may be people that have had this and never shown a symptom? That is like a typhoid Mary going around infecting people. And that's my concern, because the better job we can do shutting spread, the better off we're all going to be in the long run.
Is it possible, Alder Galvin, as I was listening, is it possible he could have even gotten it from his wife? His wife was the one that infected him?
And that's possible. And that's why, and I'm not asking for the specifics of their back trace investigation or anything else like that. But these are the things where, and also if we're looking at trying not to panic people, you've got an entire police department, I'm sure, that is pretty uptight right now, especially the 6 that were identified. And if we can identify where he got infected from, we can put their minds at ease to a certain extent, and all the other employees that are working there, and the public. I mean, who wants to deal with the police if you have to worry that the officer dealing with you is infected and could possibly be infecting you? So,
Alder Galvin, I just want to
yeah.
add that they are using retired police detectives. They are also using students from medical system as part of the back tracing staff. So they've taken all of those steps as well.
Okay, that's good. That's reassuring to hear. Thank you.
You bet.
How many employees have been affected by this officer? That's already been answered. And then and I promise you my last one right now. In a perfect world, would the PD use different PPE or have better protocols? And I'm pretty reassured right now, and that answer was no. They think they're doing as much as they can, and I'm pretty confident that they are. So I don't think there's any need to address that unless Chief Smith or Chief Linton or Lieutenant Strouf would like to.
I think if I had a magic wand, I would love to, magically create a bunch of more N95 masks. I think we're good on face shields, we're good on gloves, we're good on surgical masks, but those N95 masks that we want our officers to wear would be out there, and we'd have a lot more of them, and we wouldn't have to use them day after day after day. The only other thing is, we continue to refine as we look at best practices across the country, what's working, what we need, how we need to tweak our response, how we clean our cars, how we deploy our officers. We're constantly tweaking that, and I think there will be changes in the future as we look at what's best practices and as we learn more about this virus.
All right, thank you. Chief Linton, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just add Chief Smith and Lieutenant Strouf, if you guys can give us an amount of N95 masks that you need. And I'm telling you, our guys are using them day after day after day after being cleaned. If you can give us a number, we'll see what we can pull from the fire department stock to give to you.
Chief, it's Strouf. Thank you for that offer. Obviously, I think, I've been working with Ryan real close, and he's been fantastic to work with. And I can only imagine just the little logistical stuff I'm dealing with, the scale he's dealing with. I'm trying, I told him this earlier today, I'm trying my darndest to utilize all the little resources I have, and I'd be fooling anybody to say that I have all these contacts, but, the mechanics know the auto body shops, and we have guys here that do painting and woodworking, and I'm sure you're aware, I'm sure everybody's probably aware that, a lot of those resources have been tapped pretty dry already, but we're going to continue to do that, try to utilize what we have here to help maintain the county-wide stock. So I appreciate the offer. I probably, at some point, will take you up on that offer. But for right now, you know, we can go for a couple of weeks with what we have, in large part to the first shipment we got from the EOC. So, you know, I just hope the manufacturing of these things gets really ramped up, and, you know, God willing, we have a whole bunch at some point we don't need to use.
Okay, well, just keep it in mind, you know, we're not, you know, we certainly don't want any officers, any of your guys or any of our guys using stuff that's not appropriate and not fitting. So, you know, the offer's out there. So if anything comes up, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. We're only taking in new stuff in boxes, not expired, you know, not to be picky, but that's what's been offered to us so far. So thank you. Yeah, we're good for the time being.
All right. I appreciate that offer also, Chief Linton. Does any of the committee have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Joe, after this long dissertation of mine, what kind of motion are you looking for? And I imagine we would just roll it all in with the presentation you did on number 2 with the city's emergency preparedness plan for COVID-19.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me right now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I think just a motion to approve would work.
I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Looking for a second.
Something happened to Alder Dax. There she is. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you
now we
hear me? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Would you like
I second.
to second the motion?
She already did.
Can you hear me?
Okay. All right. Yes. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and that passes unanimously. On to informational. Report of routine personal actions for regular employees. Does anyone on the committee have any questions about those routine moves for staff?
I do not.
I have no questions. You need a move
All
to
right.
receive and place on file, or?
Yeah, that would work.
All right. I'm well.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes. Next meeting, April 28th. Joe, does that look like it's going to happen?
Yeah, I believe that would. I think is the council meeting the week before that.
Yes, it is.
Well, we've actually got one coming up this Thursday, but yes, I think.
There's another one the week before.
Yeah, so I believe April 28th for personnel will be the next meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. And again, I apologize if I went on too long, and I appreciate everyone just in my questions. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you much, everyone. Take care and stay safe.
Bye.
Thanks, you too.
Have a good night.